Hello and welcome back to the caves, everybody. Welcome back to Deep Rock, where today we're going to be going over the 5 strongest builds for the Warthog Auto Shotgun, at least in my opinion. The Warthog is pretty solid, and it did get a brand new overclock, and it's probably my favorite overclock that Inji got from this latest season, as well as it is a very unique weapon because it works pretty much like what you would expect from a semi-automatic shotgun, where it's pretty good at close range and medium range. It does quite well against most enemies, but on top of that, it also has some other functions like with its turret, since it gets turret whip as just an upgrade, which is pretty solid. It's actually a very good upgrade. I mean, it's also going to be an upgrade that you don't see too often on this build list. However, keep in mind that it is generally better than the rate of fire in tier 5 if you just want to get the maximum amount of value out of your kit. With certain overclocks, you could argue that it's not really the best, but a lot of the time the reason why I take the rate of fire is just because I like the feel of it more so than having turret whip. Sometimes I forget to set down my turrets, and sometimes I forget that I even have it to use it on my turrets. That's totally user error though, and if you like using it a lot, I would recommend it. Either way, let's hop right into this with our very first build, which is going to be pump action for the Warthog. This is our brand new overclock, and this one is really cool. This one gets you much more damage and gives you blow through on the shotgun, but it does make it so your rate of fire is slower. However, you do get a pump action to every time that you shoot the Warthog, which is very satisfying, so I would consider that a plus. It does make it so your shotgun is less accurate, and you do have less ammo overall, as well as less shells in the magazine, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. You don't lose out on that much, and the damage that you get from this is pretty good. The way I have mine built is a little bit different because this is about the only Warthog overclock that can make good use of the armor breaking on the Warthog. Armor breaking did get fixed on a lot of the weapons, so it is a lot better than it used to be, at least for weapons like the shotgun and explosive weapons like the grenade launcher and hurricane. This one is really good at close and medium range. It kills bugs very, very well. It's really good against some of the bigger enemies like Praetorians and guards that have armor. It's also really nice if you end up going to salt pits and you get a bunch of rollers. This one can just rip right through them since you have the armor breaking on your shotgun, and this one just feels fantastic overall. Since this one doesn't have super long range, I decided to pair it with a shard diffractor, which will cover my long range, and for that I have volatile impact on it. This one also allows me to put magma down on the ground, which means that I can light enemies on fire, and I can deal more damage over time. If I don't need to use it for that, I can just use the shard diffractor normally and snipe things off at a distance. Usually I'll try to put down magma as the horde comes closer, and then I'll use pump action to just pick off whatever's getting too close to me. It also works really well in conjunction with your turrets, and then if you're running something like your shredder drones or the lures, then you're pretty well covered at pretty much every range. This is probably one of my new favorite Inji builds. I think that it's really solid overall, and it just gets pretty much every job done that you would like it to. Like I said, turret whip can be really good with this one. This one in particular though, because you don't really have to worry about enemies getting in front of your turret since you have penetration with the shotgun. With all of its other overclocks, you still have to worry about that, so you do need a somewhat clean line of sight in order to hit your turrets. Now, if you're standing next to them, this isn't going to be a big deal, but if they are a little ways away, then pump action can potentially make that a little bit easier if you would like to go with that build. Personally, I go with the rate of fire because it makes the shotgun just feel a little bit better than it otherwise would. Our second build is taking cycle overload, our other unstable overclock. This one gives us an increased rate of fire, but it does make it so we are less accurate. It also gives us a longer reload time, but that's not such a big deal because we can reload cancel the Warthog and get a decent amount of value thanks to that. This one is really good for being up close and personal. I like using this one to be really aggressive. The way I have this built is just for more rate of fire and more damage, so I can just mag dump this into things at close range and kill them very, very quickly. This kills big enemies really fast so long as you can get to their weak points. And this can still work pretty well at medium range. At long range, it's not really the best because the pellet spread is a bit much, so if you're trying to pick off web and acid spitters on the ceiling, it might be difficult. Sometimes the shotgun is really accurate for no reason, and other times the spread is quite big, so your mileage may vary there. I took a secondary to where I can pick things off at a distance easily. I took hyper propellant on the grenade launcher. This makes it so I can pick off pretty much anything I'd like at a distance. It does really high damage. The only downside is I don't have the most amount of rounds with this, so I can't be using this against absolutely everything at range, but if there is a high value target at range, like a spitballer or a menace or something, I can kill it very quickly. This one is just one of my favorite overclocks for the weapon. It does a lot of damage. I have it just built for more ammo, and you could even throw fire on this if you'd like, especially if you're going on a robot mission, because then you could one-shot them too. Usually I try to use this build to initiate the fight with hyper propellant, at least try to take out something big with that, and then when enemies get close, just switch over the shotgun, or I guess when I get close, switch over to the shotgun and then just spam this at enemies. You kill things pretty quick, but you can run out of ammo fairly fast, so be sure that you're collecting a decent amount of nitro along the way. Our third build is probably going to be our most basic build. This is lightweight magazines on the Warthog and lightweight cases on the Breach Cutter. Both of these are clean overclocks and they essentially just give you more ammo. The Warthog one gives you more ammo and a faster reload speed, which is good. I can reload cancel even quicker than I otherwise would, and it makes it so you can build this pretty much however you'd like. It's very flexible. The way I have it built is for more damage thanks to the pellets in tier 2, but if you wanted more ammo in tier 2, you could absolutely take that just so that you have more sustained fire. This one works particularly well with turret whip too, because you can trigger it pretty often, and I'm going to be using this at most ranges. Once enemies get too close, then I'll switch over to my Breach Cutter where I have the lightweight cases. This just gives me more ammo for the Breach Cutter. It also gives me faster reload speed, funny enough too, even though that doesn't matter so much with the Breach Cutter. The way I have my Breach Cutter set up is my standard Breach Cutter where I just have a lot more ammo. But if you like taking this for more damage, or maybe you want the triple line split, you could also take that with the Breach Cutter and it would work just fine. Very straightforward build, and this is probably my go-to and probably my favorite overclock before the new season, but since pump action got added, I have been using that one a whole lot more with the Warthog. For our fourth build, we have magnetic pellet alignment on the Warthog. This will give us better accuracy, well, better spread, and it will make it so we get more weak spot damage. We just have a slower rate of fire, which isn't that big of a deal because we can just increase the rate of fire with this. And this is another one that works really well with turret whip. This time I do have it built with turret whip, same as the last build. You could also build this for more pellets or more ammo in tier 2. You could also take the choke if you want to use this at very long range. I don't find that entirely necessary though, because already having the reduced spread is still pretty good at longer ranges with the shotgun, which makes it so for a secondary weapon, again, you can kind of take whatever you'd like. I took Inferno Breach Cutter. This one is really good. It gets us more damage on the Breach Cutter. Doesn't really come with that much of a downside. The only kind of downside this one has is if you're going to be using this against Dreadnoughts, unless you have a scout with the Drac Overclock that allows you to light them on fire, which isn't even that big of a deal because even if you have the nerfed Breach Cutter, it's still the Breach Cutter, so it's still going to do a lot of damage even to the Dreadnoughts when they have resistances like this. Against everything else, you're just going to light them on fire like Oppressors and Praetorians, and you'll likely be able to kill them a little bit faster than you otherwise would, making it better than the regular Breach Cutter, which is already quite good. And then for our fifth and final build, we're going to be taking mini shells with the shotgun. This gets us a lot more ammo, but it does reduce our damage quite a bit. So this one can be a little bit rough if you're trying to fight big enemies. Against small enemies, it can still be good, because if you take pellets in tier 2 and damage in tier 4, you can still one-shot headshot regular grunts on any difficulty, which is pretty good, and you do have a lot more shells in the shotgun than what you otherwise would, so you can spam this pretty well. It's also particularly strong if you end up getting critical weakness, because 5 times extra crit damage is really high for a weapon like this where you just have a bunch of shells. The way that I have this built is for more damage, so I can use it as a general purpose weapon, and then I've also got turret whip on this so I can shoot it out a little bit more, although full rate of fire on this one is also quite fun, especially because this one doesn't really have much recoil. I'm generally going to be using this at close and medium range and to pick off most enemies. My secondary is going to be Fat Boy for the grenade launcher, which allows me to have mini nukes, and I have this built for all ammo. That's just so that I can use this more often. My main goal with this is going to be use the Fat Boy to clear up crowds instantly, and then I'm going to switch over to the shotgun to pick off other things at close and medium range. This one may not be the strongest on certain mission types. It's not going to be the strongest against Dreadnoughts because you only have a limited amount of nukes, and even then, nukes aren't going to do as much damage overall, usually, as something like hyperpropellant. That would probably be a better option for those type of missions, and it pairs really well with mini shells too if you'd like to take that. But it is undoubtedly really good for clearing up crowds. It clears them up very quickly. On top of that, I can use it a little bit more so that I can clear out minerals too up high. Makes it so I don't necessarily have to wait for anybody to go get them, and I don't necessarily have to use my platform to go get them. So that does kind of help too. And that'll do it for these 5 builds for the Warthog. The Warthog is pretty powerful. It is quite a good weapon right now, and its overclocks are pretty solid. It only has 6 of them, but all of them are pretty good. Tell me your thoughts on these builds and which builds you would recommend for Inji's Warthog. I would love to hear them. Thank you guys so very much for watching this. Hope that you guys enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye!